Hey everyone, what's going on? Scott Lapierre here again, and this is my post-race training diary for the Crystal City Twilighter 5K. And in this video, we'll also be covering how to stay safe while running in heat and specifically humidity. So first and foremost, I have to commend Pacer's running store for their handling of the situation Saturday night where the heat index, as it reported, was over 100 degrees, and according to a couple different websites, the humidity was over 50%. So we'll get into those numbers a little bit later on. But what they did, and what they did extremely well, was they extended the water stop at about the halfway point of the race. And then about 2 miles in, there was a turnaround to come back into downtown Crystal City by Reagan National Airport. So they managed to procure an Arlington County fire truck and were spraying the hoses up in the air to create a kind of misting effect. Both worked really well, and I felt safe and felt confident in not only my safety but also those of the runners around me. So great job, Pacers! Thank you guys very much. And according to a few people I know who worked there, they actually had the biggest turnout this year, despite a decent amount of people not showing up to the race because of the weather. So anyway, talking about running during hot weather, there's a lot of strategies to literally run around the heat. So for example, this morning I got up at, I was actually out of bed by 7 and out running at about 7:15. It was still really freaking hot out. So early mornings and late nights are kind of the main alternatives to say running in the middle of the day. Like right now it's about 2 o'clock, and if I had to guess, it's probably about 95 degrees out here in DC. Again, we're kind of coming to the end of a pretty big heat wave. So heat is one thing, but the biggest factor I've noticed, not only in my training but also I've been reading about online, is the humidity. So this was extremely evident on Saturday night, and as I mentioned, a few seconds ago, and in the previous video, it was about 100 degrees, and humidity actually increased as the race went on, as the temperature got cooler. So it started off somewhere in like the 50% range and went up to about 60%. So what happened was, while I was running, both of these factors caused my heart rate to increase. And I'll go into a little more detail than that, and it was actually a pretty significant increase, which you can actually see on this graph. Alright, so the red dotted line is about where my heart rate should have been during this race. That would be that dotted line right there. The blue line above it is the cutoff for 90% of my max heart rate, which usually at that level, that's about when your cardiovascular system begins shutting off, and you begin to use your what's called anaerobic metabolism, which means your body's not totally efficiently processing all the oxygen that you're inhaling. So after that, the horizontal blue line is the start of the race right here, and the dotted one next to it is 2 minutes in. So as you can see, taking off from the outset, I did start off a little bit too quickly, and my heart rate spiked about 2 minutes in when I first checked my watch. And over here on, well, it's my right, but it might be left on the video. I apologize if it's backwards. This was running about a 9:30 pace. This was about a half a mile. And then this was coming back to the start line, just as a quick warm-up, running about a 8:45-ish pace. As you can see, just that sudden jump in my heart rate right there, and then the resulting one, which continued through all the way through anaerobic metabolism, all the way to the very end of the race. So thanks to Polar for not only having great software but also partnering and fitness together. So according to the notes I have here, I finished the race in about 26 minutes and 25 seconds, which is a far cry from my initial projections and goal of about 23 minutes and 45 seconds to low 24 minutes. But I'm not too bummed out about that. It says here my average heart rate was 187, which puts it at about 92% of my maximum heart rate, which is usually the level of, you know, even though it's not 100% of my max heart rate, you're kind of going 100%. And yeah, so a 26:25, it gives you about a 83 or 8:30, 8 minutes and 30 seconds to 8 minutes and 40 second pace. Now, normally under, say, perfect conditions, if it was 70 degrees with low humidity, or somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe a little bit warm, or kind of at the end of the day, my heart rate would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 168 to 172, which would be just below that dotted red line, maybe even a bit lower. So I'd be going fully aerobic. My body would be running pretty much completely efficiently. My cardiovascular system would be able to be fully processing, and my body would be fully absorbing all the oxygen I was inhaling. Yeah, so some research I did actually on the subject earlier today, and I'll have all the links to the websites I used, as well as a couple of these scientific articles right down below in the description, so you guys can read the articles for yourself. Once you get above 50% humidity, getting up to 90, which I have running and it is extremely unpleasant, that can elevate your heart rate by a total of 10 beats per minute or more. It's all personal. And running in 100-degree temperatures as well can elevate the heart rate by around 10 beats per minute. So going back to the original number of 187 minus 20 is 167. So under normal conditions, what I've noticed anecdotally checks out. So we can establish that the heat was a factor in the race. So thoughts on this was, according to the graph, I was essentially redlining the entire race, and it felt like that. And due to the increased heart rate, due to my cardiovascular system running extremely inefficiently, I can safely say that I was about a minute slower per mile than I should have been and could have been. But no matter, it's the middle of the summer down here. So a couple of the things that were going on during the race, especially running in humidity, is that it actually affects your body's ability to disperse the heat, and it affects how your body cools back down. So like I mentioned before, when you're performing inefficiently, like I was on Saturday night, Sunday night, and also to a certain extent today while I was doing a 5-mile run and some speed work, which did not go too well. So running inefficiently, your body generates more heat than it would if you were maintaining an efficient aerobic, efficient cardiovascular system. So this is kind of like a vicious cycle where your body's running inefficiently because of the heat. You have to work harder because it's hot out, and because you're working harder, you're producing more heat, and it keeps building up because you have a diminished capacity for getting rid of the heat. So it's a vicious cycle, and what I've been doing is every mile and a half or so, I'll find a shady spot and like take a break for a minute. Obviously, earlier in the run if I start in the morning, later in the run if I'm going at night, I can usually last a little bit longer. So another huge factor when running in heat and humidity is dehydration as well. So even though your sweat's not evaporating efficiently, cooling you down efficiently, that doesn't mean your body's not going to try to sweat more to keep dispersing the heat. So aside from the obvious side effects of dehydration can also affect athletic performance. So as I said, it just becomes a vicious, self-sustaining, tailspin. So weight loss of losing as much as 1% of your body weight in sweat already begins to negatively affect athletic performance. So for me, that is about 1 pound and maybe like 12 ounces, so just under a liter. Don't picture that, and B, that does sound kind of like a lot, and I know some of you are probably thinking, there's no way that you can sweat that much. That's actually not true, because according to a lot of the research I've seen, an average person not even running in conditions like this, if you're stuck outside, if you're in the sun, you can sweat off about 1 liter of sweat per hour up to about 2 hours. Because at that point, I would be down, say, 3 to 4%, 3 to 4% of my body weight, and my athletic performance would be so critically diminished. I would probably either have to stop fully, or I'd be experiencing the beginning stages of heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Not fun stuff. And for what it's worth, when I ran on Sunday night, I started off at about 7:30. The temperature was in the high 80s and the humidity was somewhere around 60%. So the heat index was at least 100. I used a 2-liter Camelback, which is just a backpack with a giant plastic bag and a straw coming out of it. Didn't DIY it, I actually bought one. I completely drained that thing and had to refill it 3 times. So there were water stops south in the Parkway, George Washington Parkway, and I had to refill it, like I said, 3 times. That's how much water I was losing. That's how much I was sweating. And when I got home, I think in about 9:30, yeah, my girlfriend Gabby asked me if it had started raining already. That's how much I was sweating. So the plan for me going forward, because my runs over the past couple days and pretty much since I got back from vacation have been what I would consider unsuccessful. I'm still getting them done, but I'm not quite getting them done the way I want to. So the plan going forward is to kind of cut back on my lifting and cross training for the next couple weeks, just kind of reducing the overall intensity of what I'm doing in the gym. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a future video, and I'll also talk about some adjustments I'm making to my weightlifting as well in terms of exercise choice. But right now I can't decide if I'm going to do that as a video in this channel or a video on Fitness Together's channel as a part of an exercises of the week type thing. So we just launched our YouTube channel there. I'll have a link to it below. Please subscribe. And same thing with this video. Please like, comment, and share. Any questions you guys have, leave them below. I'll answer them in the next video, which I don't quite have planned out yet, but still. As I said before, all of the articles will be linked below. So thank you guys very much, and until next time.